My story takes place about 12 years ago. I was 15 and spent the summer with my best friend Alan. During the week, we would stay at his mother's house, which was usually uneventful. But on the weekends, we got to go to his grandma's house. Her house was way up in the mountains about an hour from civilization. Her house was the oldest on the family farm. The farm was completely self-sufficient. They grew their own food, raised their own cattle, and everything else that goes along with owning a farm. Alan's grandma was about 91 years old, and very odd. She would tell us stories about the farm, people dying, ghost sightings, and creepy legends. She would really freak us out. She would sit in the living room and talk to an empty chair as if a person was sitting there, or lay in bed and whisper to someone and laugh. But no one was ever there. One night, Alan's grandma told us a story, and I'll never forget what happened afterwards. She said one day about 20 years ago, her son, James, had a horrible experience while riding his horse next to the family cemetery. James was checking the fence that separated the family property from the neighboring family's property. It was raining outside and the thunder and lightning was starting to get heavy. As James decided to turn around and come home, he heard what he described as a young child crying. James slowed his horse to a brisk walk and tried to look through the rain to see if he could see the child. As he came to the cemetery, he saw a child sitting in the middle of the field. The child was facing away from him and had a hooded type of blanket on, with the hood covering the child's face. James got off his horse and walked over to the child. The child was just rocking back and forth and continually getting louder and louder as it cried. James put his hand on the child's shoulder and asked the child if he could help. The child immediately stopped rocking back and forth and stopped crying. The child then turned its head completely backwards, while its body stayed facing forward. The child then looked at James. He became horrified. The child was an adult with a gray face and black lips. James couldn't see the eyes, but he could see that it was smiling. James began to run to his horse but fell in the mud. He quickly got up and made it to the horse. He began to ride away as fast as the horse could run. As James rode away, he could hear the child crying as if it was right next to his ear. After riding fast and hard for a couple of minutes, James felt excruciating pain on both of his sides. He turned around to find the evil crying thing sitting on his horse with him with its hand around its sides. James screamed at it and told it to let him go. He turned around one last time to pry the thing off him and saw that the hood had fallen, revealing its head. James said he saw himself in the huge dark red eyes of the thing. He said when the thing noticed James could see its eyes, it smiled, and as quickly as it happened, it was over. That thing was gone. James went home and told his mother what had happened. After listening to the story, Alan and I were scared. We went to our room and talked about the story we had just heard. Our room was directly south of the family cemetery, and we could see the gates from the moon shining on it. As Alan was talking to me, I saw something small moving about in the field. I told Alan, and he could see it too. We both stared at it, and then it stopped as if it noticed us. I felt terrified. Alan said, "Look, it's looking right at us." I could only see what looked like some type of hood thing walking towards us. And then it began to run towards us. Not slowly, but fast. Almost abnormally fast. All the while it appeared like it was looking right at us. Alan and I ducked behind the window, and right at that moment, a loud thump hit the wall outside. Then I heard what sounded like a child crying. I ran as fast as I could to the living room of the house. Alan was right behind me. As I got to the living room and turned the light on, I saw that Alan had been so scared he peed his pants. I don't know what we saw, and I don't know why we saw it. We told Alan's grandma the next day, and she said it was a demon that had followed her around since she was little and pops up from time to time when she says the story. The scariest part was that she said it so matter-of-factly, as if what she had just said was normal. Alan and I have told this story so many times. Some people believe me, and some don't. I don't care whether people believe it or not. I tell this story because I have never heard a story like it or had an experience like it since. I stopped trying to make sense of it because it just freaks me out more.